All right, we're live here. This is Alf Benny, talking with a broken-hearted liberal today. On is there something I call you besides a broken-hearted liberal? That's kind of long.
You can call me Lib, Broken. Don't really much care.
Lib is cool. I'll just call you that. So, what did
All right.
you want to talk about?
Well, I mean, I just kind of wanted to clear up a little bit. Just because I mean, obviously, you and I went back and forth a little bit on sort of the comment sections and video. I just kind of wanted to clarify sort of where I stand in all of this. And so the thing is, again, I want to reiterate. I don't think that they're like. I don't think that they're Nazis. It's not an accurate term. It doesn't fit exactly. And we can just. I think at the end we can discuss like where I think they're gonna go, but like if they took power, for instance. But the thing is, the reason why I was criticizing AiU is because he wasn't. I don't think he was going about disproving that they're Nazis in the proper way. Because again, okay. So first off, do you know about the political compass test?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah. It's like a graph.
right.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of feel like maybe you as well as AIU are sort of on the left right. Are you using the left right one, or is
I
it
don't even
accurate?
go by that, to be honest. Like, I don't even go by
What you say?
compass. I said I don't even go by the political compass, to be honest. That stuff doesn't even matter to me. But if you look up socialism, socialism is definitely a leftist ideal, as is communism.
Well, okay. The thing is I mean, I'm not saying okay. I think, to be honest, that I wouldn't necessarily classify it as one sec. I wouldn't necessarily classify it as just solely left wing. The reason why is here I'll send you a link of the political compass, and this sort of roughly puts shows what I'm trying to illustrate, at least. Because the thing is if you look at okay, so would you agree that religious people, like religion, is generally on the right, like sort of, at least sort of like the
Yeah,
evangelical?
I guess generally, yeah, usually.
Okay, so that to me would be the quote socialist aspect of. I'm not saying like I'm not saying socialist in like the commie sense exactly, but basically sort of like this. We need to come together and like uh there's like support. Religion has this support. They give tithes and they sort of help out their own
Yeah, it's communistic.
in this sort of cooperative kind of thing. um
But I don't
Let me
think that was the point. I think AIU's point was that he was saying, as an absolute, they're not socialists in general. They may use some socialist movements, or policies, but they're not totally socialist. That's not their political platform.
no, okay, again, I'm not saying that they're like that they have the communist ideal. What I'm saying is they have this collectivist sort of model where they um where essentially there's a lot more cooperation, because I've the sort of the bottom of the political compass is sort of more individualistic. You rely on yourself and stuff like this.
Mhm.
But in the top, the more authoritarian thing is you're essentially collectivizing people, and you're helping each other out. I mean, granted, there's a much more oppression and stuff like that, at the top, but it, there's trade-offs, obviously. Essentially,
Yeah.
is what I'm saying. So in that link, the first one is sort of I show the political compass test. If you go there,
Yeah, I
you
got
can
it.
also screen share as well.
Oh, how do you do that?
Should be at the top, I think, or it's off to the side. There's a little green box with an arrow in it.
Oh, okay. Where's this? Whoa.
Okay, there you go. So that political compass is, I kind of put some labels there, and that's this is very general, of course, but that's sort of my view on it. I don't know. What do you think of that?
Oh shit! I just took it off. Go back. So Nazism is in the middle on top, religion on the right, communism on the left.
Well,
Yeah,
anarchy, or yeah, okay,
makes sense.
And so that's sort of what I was getting at. Saying that they're not socialist is, I mean, I'm not saying that the alt-right at least is not socialist is inaccurate. I mean, not 100, they're not 100% like communist, but they have a lot of socialist sort of, at least they want, they want social programs and stuff like that. They're not libertarians by any means. A lot of them aren't.
They're I could say they're authoritarian, but they're not totally. They're not really that socialist. Like if you think about it, like you said, the healthcare thing. Yeah, they want that, but most of them don't want that kind of stuff. Most of them just want regular freedoms and little government. No, small government.
Well, I mean, okay. The thing is though, I disagree because, again, Richard Spencer is one of the more prominent ones. I also have a link here.
But if we're talking about the people who want to label themselves neo-Nazis, basically, they hate Richard Spencer. They don't like him. They don't like his politics at all.
Okay, but I'm talking about the alt-right, not so much the actual Nazi, but I'm talking about like the overall movement
of alt-right.
Of alt-right. I believe that they generally want this because here's this guy's Hunter Wallace.
Hunter Wallace.
I put the link in the description. Oh wait, sorry, that's the wrong one. Where is it?
It's pretty cool.
I mean, yeah, I've been sort of monitoring this. This is a interesting development that they're with the Heather hair stuff, but they're kind of trying to figure out what an alternative to the mainstream media. But basically, in this one, this was sort of in response to one of my posts because I post on Civil War. I kind of monitor them using that one. And basically, he was kind of outlining the alt-right's like platforms. And one of the things he says is, where is that? So, alt-right isn't blind to the raw economic power of corporate monopolies. See Google, Facebook, Apple. The alt-right believes the economy should serve the nation. True conservatives and true libertarians believe we are only an economy. So essentially, they're differentiating themselves from libertarians. There was a video, the one that I put in my video, where Richard Spencer is saying, we're past libertarianism and all that other stuff. And so here's another one also saying, differentiating themselves from libertarians. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't libertarians in the alt-right. Like, for instance, AiU did Christopher Cantwell. But the thing is I believe a majority of them, at least, are sort of this not libertarian thing. And again, as I was saying, Christopher Cantwell, he's saying there are socialist elements in the alt-right as well. So significant enough that
they're very much against Jews. Yeah.
Significant enough that they are they're making speeches and he's trying to keep, he's really trying to keep, he was saying he was really trying to keep his mouth shut, basically. Anyways.
But it makes somewhat sense because they are against Jews and they think that they run everything, so, and they want to stop that.
Yeah, the corporate sort of structure and stuff like that, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but that in no way means that they don't want a corporate structure at all. They just want it for white people or themselves, right?
I mean, yeah, but the thing is they talk a lot about the white working class and stuff like that, and how they need to help the white working class.
Yeah, yeah, they tend to be working class.
Here's another link. All right, this is an archive link from altright.com. Again, this is Richard Spencer's thing. In this, he says, let's see. Calling us mean names wasn't nice, but he slipped in a lot of good points into his interview as well. His economic nationalism will help the alt-right and white America immeasurably. When he speaks of economic warfare, he will benefit who. Wait, I think it's supposed to be welfare. Who will benefit the most? It is implicitly pro-white policy measure. We are all for it in the alt-right. Manufacturing protectionism. Oh shoot, I lost it. Manufacturing protectionism, stuff like that. So basically, like a libertarian generally is not for trade barriers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Let's see. Bannon's other ideas about breaking up the massive Silicon Valley corporate monopolies is excellent as well. It will give the alt-right and other dissidents some breathing room from the private sector assault on our free speech rights. So again, it's sort of it's sort of this idea of using government, like not big government, but it essentially will be big government. Big government. It's through a different lens than socialism. So for instance, going back to that political compass test, communists will look at it in a purely economic sense, like i.e., the working class versus the the oligarchs or whatever, right?
The elites, yeah.
Yeah, the elites. And the alt-right, in a sense, does the same thing, except for it looks through more of a social lens. I.e., if you're looking from that article again, he's talking about we want our free speech. Again, Richard Spencer has talked about the free market is not friendly to traditional values. I.e., there's quote degeneracy and all of this other stuff. So looking through this social lens of the free market destroys the family and stuff like that. And so sort of like that they're against porn. There's and sort of like this this over sexualization, stuff like that. And for instance, James Alsop or whatever, he said essentially was speaking out against porn. Some other people were as well. So this is straight up not.
Yeah, but that's not socialism. That's not a socialist view.
No. But but the thing is, huh?
It's authoritarian for sure.
Yeah, but it's authoritarian. But what I'm trying to get at is basically, it's not libertarian. It's more government. It's sort of this not social. I don't know how to put it without saying socialism, but it's like sort of these. It's more government control, which again, like communist. It's through a different lens, though.
Yeah.
So like, communism again is like through economic sense, and then they are doing it through a social sense, i.e., a social conservative sense, but they're still like using the government as a sort of collectivized kind of thing to enforce their views and stuff like that. So that's what I was trying to get at least.
I see your point, but as you were saying in the video that he was it what did you say, that he was nitpicking or something? That's kind of like what you're doing though. You're nitpicking his arguments and generalizing what he said, or maybe not generalizing, or taking it as an absolute where he was being general.
I mean, the thing is, like, I'm not gonna lie, like a little bit of it was a little like sort of the where I'm criticizing his like, I'm just sort of poking at him a little bit. It's a little bit for entertainment value. I'm not gonna lie. Like,
Yeah, I agree. My video is the same. That's why at the end I said no hard feelings or anything. Like I made fun a little bit, but that's just making videos and being entertaining.
Yeah. So I'm not saying. I mean, again, I told the other guy, like, I don't think I've, at least so far, I haven't seen a policy that I disagree with, or like a view that I disagree with AiU yet. Like, I think mostly we agree. I haven't watched a ton of his stuff, but I've seen some of it, and like, I don't disagree with most of his stuff, I think. But it's more of the mode that he was going about it. I don't know. The way
too, though. Like we were just saying, entertainment value. That's kind of his thing too.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit. So it's just kind of playing off each other a little bit. So
and he's friends with Reese. They talk all the time.
Right. Anyway, so that's generally what I was trying to get at. Let's see, what else? I think I have some other stuff with the political compass. Let's see.
Oh yeah, and for anybody watching, A Broken Hearted Liberal is pretty new on YouTube. If you want to subscribe to him, he's got some good content. Check it out.
Yeah, I'm about to. I need to do the editing, but I'm doing a video on the alt-right Gab drama. So that's blowing up right now. And it's just to be honest, like I think I've found sort of the right-wing SJW.
Yeah.
I think it's Vox Day, to be honest. Vox Day is just sort of like, God, he's the most arrogant guy I have like ever come across. Like he's like, if I could, I would only talk to 125 IQ people and above or something like that. And I'm just like, Jesus Christ, man. Let's see. But anyways, yeah, that's the thing. So I guess the question is what, so I guess going back to the sort of the political compass and spectrum thing, like what kind of visualization would best suit you? Do you, because you were kind of saying you weren't exactly going with the left-right sort of axis one.
Yeah, well, I'm more in the middle. I go with whatever seems correct at the moment politically. Sometimes there might be a time where one policy you don't like most of the time, but then something happens in the current political climate where you're like, all right, this might be useful. No, so I don't like to stick to one or the other. So, some people are just always left and some people are always right. But I have some conservative views, some liberal views.
Right. No, I guess what I mean is like, how do you visualize sort of the political spectrum, I guess?
Yeah, I'm more towards the center, probably more liberal.
No, the visualization, like, do you subscribe to like the political compass? Do you subscribe to the sort of left-right line thing? Like
yeah, what do you mean? Left-right.
The left-right? Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. The reason why I don't particularly subscribe to that one is because if you go to back to the Twitter, the political compass thing I posted.
Let me pop it up for everyone.
The second image.
Yeah, left, right.
So this is I believe this probably came from a conservative, but real quick, do you consider yourself left-leaning or?
Yeah, I would think I'm probably a little more left-leaning then.
Okay. This is an example of one of the reasons why I don't subscribe to this one. It sort of it gives the advantage to the right wing, I think. Not only does it give the advantage, but I think it's inaccurate as well. So this is basically showing like communism and fascism, Nazism on the left side, and then on the right side, it's essentially saying, oh, we have total freedom over here, even though it may turn into anarchy and stuff like that. So that's sort of.
I say, yeah, that seems off. I see your point there.
I mean, there's some quote balanced ones that essentially put Nazism on the other side, but like I think generally people like for instance Dinesh Sosa or whatever, you know, the left is the true Nazis or whatever, stuff like that. Yeah, like I think well this one was kind of weird. But there are ones that essentially put Nazism on the right, on the far right, and then communism on the far left, which again it doesn't, it's not really accurate. That's why I subscribe more to the political compass, because the because again there's like the sort of libertarian left and right and stuff like that. So it's kind of it's kind of weird to put, you know, like communism and Nazism on the far ends when there are far left and far right libertarian sort of sects and stuff like that. If you go, yeah, going to the, you know, the ANCOMs and the ANCAPs in the political compass.
Yes.
And so if anything, I think the left right axis kind of like if you bent it around into sort of horseshoe, essentially, it kind of can go into the political compass and stuff like that. And that's why I view the political compass as more accurate, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it would probably be in the blue area, no?
Yeah, the right side would kind of go up towards Nazism, and the left side would go to communism. So it's kind of like off a little bit, but you know, that's.
Do you not see communism and socialism as being very similar?
Huh?
Do you not see communism and socialism as being very similar?
Well, the thing is they're not.
I mean, they're not the same thing, but they do have a lot of similarities.
Well, no, what I mean is I don't exactly view them as different necessarily, because that's why I was a little confused when you were conflating socialism and communism. There, I kind of view them as one thing, because in the communist sense, socialism is leading to is the step to communism.
Yeah, that it can be. I can see that.
I mean, that's their ultimate goal. The ultimate goal is to you know, again, the thing is, like, I'm not, like, I'm generally for sort of universal healthcare, so it's not that I'm like against some social programs. I'm just against full, you know, ownership of everything by the state.
Yeah, same here. We're on the same thought on that.
And so but yeah, that's just sort of my view on it, I guess. That's why I thought it was a little weird to conflate, because essentially communists don't call themselves communists, just like Nazis never really called themselves Nazis.
They really they want to be called Nazis.
No, they call themselves National Social Nazi. Here, I can give you the link, but
that specific group. But there are groups that want to be called Nazis. I mean, they wave around Nazi flags and stuff. They want to be seen as Nazis.
No, I know, but the term, the actual word Nazi used to be well, I guess still is
the National Socialist Party.
Well, no, but the thing is, it has a history. It used to be in Germany. It used to be like a peasant who was clumsy, and political opponents of Nazis basically turned the word Nazi into a slur, essentially. So they never really wanted to call themselves Nazis. They usually called themselves like National Socialists. I know there's like it seems like a fine line, but
yeah,
that but that's basically, I mean, this is history as far as I know, at least. That's what happened. Like, they didn't really want to be called Nazis. They wanted to be called National Socialists. Here's the link.
Oh, where did it open to? Oh, right here. And called a Nazi. What's really in humble pie? Origins of words and phrases. Interesting.
And so let me see if I can find it exactly, but
so essentially it's saying that Nazi doesn't mean what it used to mean.
let's see. Okay, so right under the picture it says Nazi, an insult in use long before the rise of Adolf Hitler's party. It was a derogatory term for a backwards peasant, being shortened version of Ignis or whatever from Bavaria, the area from which Nazis emerged. On top of that, the Wikipedia article says there's like 6 or 7 citations on it, and it basically says it was like uh, uh, for backwards peasant, and here I'll give you the link. Where is it?
On the right etymology.
Yeah.
Yeah, NSDAP.
Yeah. So it says term Nazi was in use before the NSDAP was a colloquial derogatory word for backwards peasant or farmer, characterized as awkward, clumsy person. And then it later says, let's see, in 1920s, political opponents of the NSDAP of the German labor movement seized on this, and using the earlier abbreviated term Soze for socialist as an example, shortened the first part of the party's name to the dismissive Nazi in order to associate them with derogatory use of the term mentioned above. Citation.
All right.
So
it's more derogatory of a term than an actual. Yeah, gotcha.
So that's why I kind of regretted not putting this in my video. I kind of intended to, but I just cut it because there was another point I was kind of had, and it didn't seem good enough. But so basically, that's what I was getting at by essentially they didn't call themselves Nazis, and people didn't want to be called Nazis, because not even the Nazis wanted to be called Nazis. I mean, there is a little bit that basically said they tried to like incorporate it, i.e. like take the name on, but it didn't stick, so they just abandoned it.
That makes sense.
Let's see. The NSDAP briefly adopted the designation Nazi in an attempt to reappropriate the term, but soon gave up this effort and generally avoided using the term while it was in power. So that's sort of the
yeah, that makes sense. They didn't want to really be called Nazis, but it seems like these people now want to be associated with that movement. It's like a way to make some like attach themselves to something powerful. You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of what I think.
I'm not saying
was basically that's basically what AiU's main point was. I think he was just trying to say we shouldn't be calling them that because that's, you know, they want to be attached to something powerful, and they're not powerful. And the more we call them that, the more power we give to them, you know?
I mean, the thing is, though, to be honest, I think is the opposite. Because currently, I don't know how much you follow the alt-right, but currently there's again, I do this off the Civil War tag, or the alt-right Civil War tag, and basically there's a big conflict right now between the sort of what Vox Day terms the Spencer socialists and and Vox Day and some of his group or whatever, and they're essentially trying to discard the straight up Nazis, like the National Socialist Movement and Andrew Anglin and stuff like that. Or actually, Andrew Anglin also is trying to become is trying to shed his image because, well, in his words, I haven't finished watching the debate, but in his words, he was saying he was using it satirically and to make fun of the media. I don't know how true that is, but
yeah, anybody could just say that, right? I was just joking.
He's trying to rebrand, basically.
Yeah. He realized there wasn't a good image.
Yeah, and so essentially they realized that being with the term Nazi is never going to get them power. So I don't see the argument that calling them Nazis makes them seem powerful or whatever. Because if anything, I mean, granted, the mainstream media like overuses it,
Yeah.
but the point is that it is more damaging to be called a Nazi than to use the word Nazi and portray yourself as quote powerful.
Oh yeah, it definitely is negative. But I mean, just like how people say like any publicity is good publicity, it's kind of like that.
I mean, I mean, kind of, but
because it's something powerful, you know, from the past. So people turn to that, will turn to that easier than them just being some random movement, you know.
I mean, I don't know. I slightly disagree with the any publicity is good publicity, because like yes, to a degree that's true, but at a certain point there's like I don't know, that I feel like at a certain point there's it just starts becoming damaging. I don't know.
I could say, well, generally in the public opinion, it's damaging. But as I said before, like the case of like recruitment and getting people to go onto your side, there's people who would see that as being powerful and say, you know, I'd rather go with these people. They have a powerful name and they, you know, a powerful history.
Right. I don't entirely disagree. So I mean, you know, but I don't know. Let's see what else. I think I'm trying to think of what else there was in the video that I was disagreeing with. I don't know. What are your thoughts so far, I guess?
I think it's kind of nitpicking too, like you were saying he was doing. I think you're kind of looking too deep into what he was saying.
So I guess, how do you mean? So like I'm basically okay. I kind of see what you mean, at least.
Yeah, I think he's just saying generally they're not socialists. Like they might have some socialist views, but in all generalness, they're not socialists.
Well, they're not
the majority of their view, right?
I mean, again, they're not they're not like traditional communist socialists, but I again, this is sort of getting back to the how they're sort of collectivizing and authoritarian in the same way. Not like it's again, it's a different lens. I view it. I guess I'm using more of a broad sort of socialism term than a like they're commie socialists, I guess. And the other thing, I guess the other thing is the Ukrainian thing. You were saying that you didn't.
Yeah, I looked it up and I couldn't find anything like what their politics were besides making it an ethno state. You know, besides being like Ukrainians or Ukrainians for Ukrainians. You know.
Well, the thing is, I gave you the link and I quoted it. Basically saying the National Corps favors restoring Ukraine's nuclear power status and nationalizing enterprises, which were the Ukrainian USSR, or I guess it would be USSR, owned when Ukraine gained independence in 1991. So that the nationalizing of like industry and stuff like that and enterprises, that's very much sort of the, you know, the socialist aspect of Nazism.
Yeah, that's a big communist.
So again, the other thing is the reason why sort of Nazism, I think, is sort of that third position up in the middle, is because well, I mean, as you're saying, like the you know, the Nazism is socialist in a way, but the thing is it got killed. That wing of the party essentially got killed off. In the SA, the SA was essentially the quote socialist part of the Nazi Party, and then obviously in the Night of the Long Knives, they, you know, the leadership got all killed. So, and so that's why generally I view it as it sort of was third position and sort of moved a little bit right after that, because essentially Hitler started you know, buddying up to business and the military generals and stuff like that, and that sort of essay got relegated to, you know, lesser status, obviously. I don't know. What do you think of that?
It makes sense what you're saying. I can understand that. I can understand your side on that. I think AIU just has he's very big on words have meanings, you know, and he's really strict on words and how you use them and stuff. So I could see how, I guess it's like a matter of perspective, right? Like how you view the words and
I mean, the thing is though, like technically, again, I don't. I'm going to reiterate. I don't think the label was accurate, but technically, Nightmare Fuel was in the definition. I mean, it's not. It's the more expanded definition that got added on later, but it's technically in the definition because essentially, the you know, obviously the first definition was like the 1930s Nazis.
Yeah.
But then the other two was obviously the derogatory one, which, you know, that kind of gets thrown out around everywhere. But then there was the other one, which was like, what was it? Authoritarian. Let me look up the term.
Yeah, they're definitely fascistic. So like they're very authoritarian.
Yeah. And so like, again, the alt-right is let's see, it's a person who seeks to impose their views on others in a very autocratic or inflexible way. So, I mean, again, technically, Nightmare Fuel is within the definition in that one. I don't think it's 100% accurate because it's, you know, they don't fit exactly. But like technically, he's still within the definition if we're going off, you know, the straight up Google dictionary.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
That's
what I'm saying.
So that's.
I guess it's a matter of perspective, right? Like how you.
Yeah.
How you do it.
Right. I mean, so again, they don't fit exactly, but like, you know, that I don't know. Let's see. I guess the other thing is also sort of where the alt-right is going. I think eventually they will hold similar views. They're not there yet. They seem, well, not sane, but they haven't disconnected from reality yet, I feel like. Vox Day might be the start of that.
Yeah.
But I feel like they're sort of in the process of sort of purity testing a little bit, at least, because I don't know if you know this, Jason Kessler got sort of ostracized. Yeah. He was one of the original organizers of the Unite the Right rally in Charlottesville. There's been a little bit of flack, in this case, coming from Vox Day and probably Tara McCarthy on what was his name? Basically, there was another guy who was a League of the South member or something like that, and he used to be a straight up Occupy guy. He was shown in like Florida or something like that, burning a Confederate flag, and like shouting against racism and, you know, we need justice for Trayvon Martin and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And so I don't know exactly what will happen to him. That the Hunter Wallace guy said is pretty much just Vox Day. I don't know how true that is, but there are certainly divisions that are breaking right now.
I mean, I think the alt-right in general was never very organized. Like they seem to have a lot of different splinter groups with different ideas and stuff, and they haven't really, which makes sense because when they started, there wasn't really a clear definition as to what alt-right was. And then it started going towards,
right.
Yeah, it started going towards more like towards that Richard Spencer type alt-right.
Right.
Yeah, like if you remember, Milo Yiannopoulos called himself alt-right at first, and then when it got associated with Richard Spencer, he was like, no, I'm not alt-right.
Yeah, there's definitely a split. You know, it's the alt-light versus the alt-right or whatever. Yeah. I remember an article. I to be honest, I don't think I'll be able to find it, but there was an article by, like, I guess he was a psychologist or something like that, or sociologist, and he was basically sort of he was talking about how sort of the intolerant people in our society, or in society, will even if they're a minority, sometimes they're able to sort of impose their views on the majority. So like the example that he gave was like vegans or something like that. And so if you're going to host a party and you have like a vegan person coming over, is it easier to or is it easier to just sort of do vegan food for everybody, um, or is it just just have a like a vegan, just a one vegan plate?
Yeah.
Um, and so sometimes it's easier, assuming that costs are close to the same and stuff like that. It's easier just to sort of do vegan and just have good vegan type meat or something like that, for instance. Like the fake meat or whatever, which I've actually had some before. Like there's actually some decent, there's actually some decent like vegetarian meat.
Yeah. Mostly tofu.
And so, I think it was like a wheat,
Huh.
it was like a wheat fiber or something like that. I don't know exactly what it was, but it tasted sort of like, or it had sort of like that texture of meat and stuff like that. And you just put like a certain sauce on it, and it's fine. And so the thing is, it's sort of like intolerance of, or like very strict people can sometimes impose their will on the majority. Another thing is, for instance, kosher stuff. Like a lot of, I mean, this drives the the neo-Nazi types insane, but there's that sort of that kosher stamp or whatever that's on a lot of our food.
Yeah.
And basically, it's like it's easier for companies just to hire some rabbi or whatever to just certify all the food.
Yeah.
And you're able to, normal people don't care. There's no, there's no difference between kosher milk and non-kosher milk, I don't think, other than like some, I think it's like some ritual or process or something like that.
Yeah, they like bless the food basically.
Yeah. And so it's like, people, normal people don't care, but the sort of the I'm only going to buy kosher food people will care. And so by koshering all the food, you essentially incorporate that market. And that's sort of how the minority can implement their will on the majority.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not a hard and fast rule, or I guess it is a hard and fast, and it's not like a hard set rule, I should say. But like there are instances where that is possible, and you kind of see this with the feminists. You have to do this, and you have to label somebody the right pronoun or whatever or something like that. And so like some people would just be like, oh, okay, fine, sure, like depending on how much how strict, because if you have to go with Z and Zer, some people are just gonna be like, why?
No. Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
But I mean, you kind of see this with trans people. Most people are, if they want to be called a her or they want to be called a him, who cares? And I kind of subscribe to that. If they want to be called that, that's fine. I don't really care. I'm fine with that.
My issue is just when they try to force it on people to change their views or something.
Right. No, like, yeah, you should have you definitely should have the right to misgender somebody.
Right. Yeah. And they're like,
to be an asshole.
You have to see me as a woman. And it's like, no, I don't. I don't have to see you as anything. You can identify as a woman all you want, and don't make a difference to me. But
right. Essentially, like, you and I, basically, people have the right to be assholes to one another.
Yeah, basically.
Eventually, again, the alt-right is not there yet, but eventually they're going to have some kind of purity spiral, which they're starting to jettison some people. So what they become and what they ultimately become, I don't know.
Yeah, they're refining their stances.
Yeah. They're definitely, I do feel like they're sort of collectivizing a bit.
Mm-hmm.
They're sort of, they're certain figures are sort of establishing their hold on the movement right now. Andrew Torba is definitely not that he's like, but basically like he's one of the figures as well, and I think a lot of people are behind him, especially in this thing between him and Vox Day. I think Vox Day, I mean, I think so far, I think Vox is getting quite a bit of flack, and I don't know how how intact he's gonna be at the end of this. Actually,
Yeah,
so
it probably won't be.
he'll probably retain some of the things, but he just like I was just watching. I'm gonna do a video on this, but a second video on this, but he was just like, I don't believe in free speech on like private platforms. I don't care. I'll ban you for any reason if you look the wrong way, basically.
Well, if it's his platform, like you said, if it's a private platform, I'm not against that. I think you can do that.
Right. I mean, but he's
Going,
advocating it on other people's platforms too. Like he was trying to get Andrew Torba to just ban Andrew Anglin and all the the essentially saying all the Spencer socialists and stuff like that. What he deems them.
yeah, I noticed Richard Spencer's kind of getting out of the limelight now. I think he's going to be gone soon, which is probably what you're saying. They're working on getting rid of certain elements.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is I don't know. I'm not entirely sure where Richard Spencer's position is at the moment. Like, but I think he's still relatively big. Vox is. I think Foxy was trying to sort of like take over, but it's not really sticking. Basically, I don't know. It's sort of like the what's his name? Len, not Toski.
Yeah.
Toski, he was one of the the forefront runners, the original revolutionaries, and then he gets ice picked by Stalin. So eventually some of the initial people may fall, and then there'll be a lot more hardcore kind of things.
Yeah, that's not going to work for them. Getting more hard is not going to work for them.
No, yeah, it's going to turn out exactly the way the feminists are. And there have been sort of I've seen a couple of calls of just sort of like screw all the other people, where sort of a very us versus them sort of mentality. Especially there was after Charlottesville. I mean, it's somewhat understandable, but they're sort of like screw the cops, basically, because I believe it was Braving Ruin actually was saying like the cops aren't your friend. Granted, they haven't had the best experience with cops, because in Charlottesville they were pushed into Antifa, as far as I can tell.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, they essentially.
I thought the police were just inactive or something, didn't do nothing.
No, they straight up pushed them out of there. So there was like a Antifa in the south of the park, basically, and the instead of letting them escape or like flee towards the north or whatever, they essentially pushed them and made them go through the Antifa people.
Yeah, that's
in Charlottesville. And the thing about it was, well, there's like a whole bunch of lawsuits going on right now between everybody and anyone, and I mean, of course, the only people making money is going to be lawyers, but currently, what was it? Basically, there was a state of emergency declared, and it basically is like, oh, all gatherings are now illegal. Of course, the Antifa one wasn't exactly dispersed, but they essentially then got pushed into it because you don't have a permit anymore because it's state of emergency, so they kind of pushed them into the Antifa. So
now the right is getting anti-police.
Yes, which is ironic.
Yeah. Now both sides are anti-police.
Yeah.
It's like, that can't work well. That's not going to end well.
I mean, again, I think the alt-right's one is a little bit, I mean, they're both justified in some ways, but like just a straight up like all police are against you is
yeah, that doesn't work very well. I think they need to drop the whole ethno-state thing. I think that's what's hurting them the most.
Yeah. As Reese was basically, I watched a bit of a stream with Reese, and he was basically saying if they were just straight up white identitarians instead of, well, I mean, I guess then again, Black Lives Matter does the same thing. They want their own state, or segregation or whatever, safe places, stuff like that.
And it's insane that the left doesn't see that their massive push towards one side is causing another massive push from the other side, you know.
Yeah.
And they're basically causing this.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely they're eating the centrists from either side, from both sides, and it's just
it sucks.
Fuck.
Yeah, it's either one or two extremes. You can't there's no middle point anymore.
And yeah, it's just just fucking hell. I mean, the other thing is also just like you're pushing for segregation again, like.
Yeah. From the second I, maybe not Black Lives Matters, I think before that, like the SJWs at colleges are talking about safe spaces for minorities and stuff like that. I'm like,
right.
You're bringing back segregation. Like, how is that good?
I mean, I guess the only way they think it's good is because it's segregation with the minorities in charge. I mean, I guess. So they're essentially becoming, they're going to become like the, the racists of the South. The straight up, the straight up segregationists. They're just going to be colored people instead of white people.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
I don't know.
They just don't want to hear any other opinions but their own. That's basically it.
Definitely, yeah. One other thing about I wanted to bring up, going back to the AiU's videos, about the white people comment, not the white people comment, that's very broad. The Nazis killed only or mostly white people thing. The thing is, like, how do I put it? Like, if not necessarily all right, but like if Nazis were in charge in the United States, never will ever happen. Please.
Yeah.
But the thing is like, regardless, like, again, like, you're gonna have how many people do they think are communists? Like, there's a bunch of communists on the left side,
right?
And they're mostly white. Sort of that white trust fund stereotype. So I guess I'm trying to say is like the same thing would happen,
where they would go after the communists.
Yeah. Where they would go to the communists who are, again, mostly, quote, white, just not their type of white, or, their ideology, essentially. So, I don't know.
Yeah, I could see that happening, but I think they would also ethnically cleanse the area.
No, I mean, yes, definitely, they would definitely do that as well, but I'm just saying that just because you're, like, a white nationalist, just because you're white nationalist doesn't mean you won't be willing to kill a bunch of white commies, basically.
Yeah, and the Nazis also killed a bunch of white people, and it was mostly for the sake of war because they were conquering countries and stuff. Like with Poland, they killed an incredible amount of Polish people. And they were basically that country.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely that difference in that the Nazis. Well, I mean, they didn't really view Slavic people as people, so there was that. So there's definitely that difference where they are sort of German supremacists in that way. That, I think, was definitely a good point by AiU, that they're not German supremacists, they're white supremacists.
Right. Yeah, that does make a difference. The Germans didn't really care about anybody besides German white people.
I mean, yeah, like, they kind of cared about the what are they called, the Alpines, the sort of other white people, sort of, but like, they're the lower tier, sort of non-pure white people.
Europe definitely has a very different view of race than we do. I talk to a lot of Europeans, and they're more about like nationalities than race. They don't see themselves as white people in the whole. They see I'm French, that person's Polish.
I don't know. It's really interesting, though. Sort of. Well, there's the the EU is sort of trying to make it a giant country or whatever in the way, and break down those sort of divisions.
Yeah, I'm kind of against the EU.
I think I am as well. I generally am as well. Like Brexit, like especially with the immigration, stuff like that,
Mhm.
the mass immigration. It's just insane what's going on.
Yeah, they're trying to force countries to take more people, but I kind of see their aspect too, because when they sign, when these countries signed on to the EU, they agreed to this, and then now they don't want to do it.
I
It's
mean,
like
the thing
greed.
is though, the thing is that the EU initially started out as more of a trade sort of thing, and then they sort of it slowly over the past like what 2 decades or however long it's been around, they've been more federalizing. So saying that they sign, I mean, like it's vastly different from what it was. I guess is
Well,
what I'm
yeah,
saying.
the point was that originally the one of the original clauses, I guess, for it was open borders, so people
Hmm.
can really travel from one country to another. So the countries that signed on kind of agreed to open borders. So if, say, Germany takes in
Open
immigrants,
open borders between each other though, not so
yeah, yeah,
much outside. Okay.
yeah, exactly. But like, say Germany takes in a bunch of immigrants, those immigrants will have free movement to other EU nations.
Right.
But now, now that in the current climate, now these countries are seeing that all these refugees and stuff and bad elements are part of this, so they can move freely and they don't want them in their
Mhm.
country. So.
I mean, I think that the thing was it was more along the lines of like they were thinking, oh, it's just going to be normal EU people
Yeah.
going around, not a bunch of migrants or economic migrants.
Mhm.
So in that way, I guess you could kind of say they didn't sign up for it, but I mean, it's very your perspective kind of thing, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah, it's difficult to see, but either way, I don't like the concept of one country telling another country like you got to do this. It's like, oh.
Hmm. Um, what was it? I think there was there was a thing I need to check into it. It was something like Poland like removed teachings of the Holocaust from its schools or something like that.
Huh. No, I haven't heard about that.
I
That's
don't know.
cool.
Yeah, I need to look into it. So don't quote me on that. Um, but I was just thinking like, oh great, now like Germany's gonna try to invade Poland again or
Head
something.
over there. Force them to teach about it. Like you must.
Yeah, yeah. Oh man. Um, I think the wokest thing was that picture of like people holding a Polish flag with no communism, no Nazis on it. That was like the best thing. Um,
Yeah, and Poland's doing good right now. They need to.
I think
they want to keep
I think they haven't had any yet. Go ahead.
yeah, they're trying to keep the refugees and out. Like the Muslim refugees and stuff.
Right. I think. Well, I saw a chart again. I need to check into it, but I think they have had like almost no terrorist attacks
Nah,
essentially.
yeah, I don't think
Um,
they've had any.
Same with like sort of like Czechoslovakia, Australia, not Australia, Austria,
Yeah, yeah,
not the
Australia's a
continent.
whole different thing.
Austria, like Hungary, stuff like that. Those places all had very much more strict in place. Boggling statistic though was I want to say it was in 2014. One of the years basically. Maybe it was 15, but they let in. I think it was like Germany let in like 2 million migrants in
Mhm.
a year.
Yeah, it's a lot.
The equivalent to population wise in the US would be 8 million
Wow,
approximately, give
that's
or
crazy.
take. So like I don't even like we do like apparently we do about like a million a year at the moment. Like 8 in 1 is just what the fuck.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um,
that's nuts to let in that many people and think that
I
everything's
mean,
gonna be all right.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the other thing is also like, I mean, even, I mean, we're kind of fortunate in that sort of Latin American countries, like their their culture isn't. I mean, it's different, but it's not like radically opposed or like
Yeah.
combative with Western values. They sort of have some sort of they sort of have a sense of sort of rule of law and
Hmm.
all having rights and all this other stuff. And Muslim countries just in general don't have a lot of that because there's either dictators or religious people cutting heads off and stuff like that. So um I don't know, it's just yeah.
I hear you. My parents are from South America and they immigrated here, and
Hmm.
basically they did everything right. They got their citizenships right away. They learned English. They got jobs. So
Right.
didn't commit any crimes. The only issue we have with Latin Americans coming here is gang related stuff.
Right. Yeah. I would say that's generally sort of just poverty issue. Because as Sargon pointed out, there's like low income people, like low income white people in Britain that have, I think it was like in Scotland or something as well. There's low income areas where there's just sort of gang activity and just
Mm-hmm.
uh, there was he was talking about how uh, they were actually using sort of like the rap music and sort of the thug culture from America actually, and like trying to emulate
Yeah,
that. I'm
yeah,
just
that's
like,
going on a lot in England. They like rap a lot now. It's starting to
I mean, like the music's fine, but like having a sort of thug culture and all kinds of stuff like that or whatever, it's just like just don't. It's not a good idea. Um, I don't know. Anyways,
Yeah, actually, I did a video on that because I grew up in the ghetto. So I did a video after that Rage Against Storm controversy thing.
uh-huh.
Yeah, and did a video about the mindset of people in the ghetto and the gangster mentality and stuff.
Right. Um, so what was your sort of opinion on that, I guess, or how did you go about that, I guess?
About gangs?
No, about the like Rage After Storm thing, I guess.
Uh, it's tough because like the whole IQ thing is fact. Like you can't really debate that.
Right.
But it's the point of like the way she made it seem like was that was the reason why they were violent. And
Hmm.
to me, it's so much more nuanced than that. There's so much that goes into it, how you're raised in that area, in the ghetto, like the gang mentality is perpetuated. You know what I'm saying? Through family, through friends,
Hmm.
the whole environment. It's very much a mindset of like a prison mindset. Like when you go to jail, you can't be disrespected. And you got to do things a certain way, and you have to have this certain image, and that's basically what it's like in the ghetto.
Hmm.
You can't look weak, so you overdo the violence to look tough.
Right. Um, yeah, no, I generally agree with that sort of mindset because basically, like, yes, the IQ is what it is. Like, it's
Mhm.
statistics. You can't really, like,
Yeah,
you can really do it. I mean, like, sort of, how you go about, like, how it came to be. I mean, granted, like, there is a genetic component, like, like, we are animals, we have genes that express stuff like that. But, I think it's a lot less than what the alt right and stuff like that are going. They're zooming in on the differences. Um, or how much of a genetic component there is. I think they're zooming in a little bit too much on that.
yeah. And I think that
Um,
was the issue most people took with her, was that she made it seem like that was specifically the reason.
yeah. I mean, the thing is, like, I think generally, if she had just stuck to the race realist part of it,
Mhm.
like she wouldn't have gotten as much flack because there's like, you can either knock down the ideas or you can't. For me, the thing was, and I think what a lot of people was like the black people lack abstract thinking.
Mhm.
Let's quote the Daily Stormer that
Yeah,
says,
yeah, that was pretty bad.
they don't. They don't understand the concept of time. Like,
What?
what?
Yeah, that's insane, right? That's so crazy. I couldn't believe that.
So yeah, I think mainly is just like I could so blended together. Like you don't understand where the trolling ends and the
Mhm.
serious points begin, basically.
So I'm kind of tired of this fucking Kekistan shit. It's so hard to tell now who are the ones that are serious and who aren't. Like,
Well, I mean, was serious in what I mean, the entire thing is not serious though.
yeah,
Like
the whole
how
thing is
how
not. But for all they know, they could be standing next to somebody who does take that kind of ideology seriously. You know what I'm saying? And they have no idea that they're like protesting next to somebody who actually takes that ideology seriously. I mean, seriously,
Yeah.
in the case that they're really thinking they're Kekistani, I mean, the joke ideology of it,
Right, right. I mean, the thing is like, I mean, that's how to put it? I mean, like the thing is, like there is some distinctions that you can kind of, obviously the Unite the Right rally is was
Yeah,
very much the serious
yeah,
version of
exactly.
that. But there's this sort of free speech, more Trump supporter kind of views, people or whatever that those people. I mean, maybe they might have some more narrow mindsets or whatever, but they're not like they're not like I want an ethno state kind of thing.
Mhm.
Um, and so those people you can deal with, you can talk to, well, mostly talk to, and stuff like that. So that's fine. I think mainly where the hard distinction is sort of online because there's it's poll culture basically.
Yeah. I think we just have a
Um,
lot of people that don't understand internet culture, and that shit gets really skewed as people think, oh, these guys are Nazis, and,
mhm.
'cause
Yeah, whether they're LARPing or not,
yeah,
basically.
exactly. They don't understand the concept of trolling and internet culture and shit.
I mean, another thing that's also this is somewhat purposely done by Poll actually, because Pepe the Frog and all that.
Mhm.
They specific. So I believe what triggered it was Pepe the Frog got stuck on a T-shirt, some store, some mainstream store, whatever, and Poll was basically, no, we don't want that to be mainstream. That's ours.
Yeah.
And so they stuck their hand up into the media, sock puppeted the media, and made the media say that Pepe the Frog is racist. Like
Yeah, yeah.
literally,
I remember
they
that being
did
on the
this.
news and saying that was a Nazi imagery, and this. I was like, what? And
And
that
Poll
just
did this. Like I think they had an operation, an operation to actually make Pepe racist, so that they could take it back
oh
again.
really?
And the thing is like Poll is kind of insane in the way like they have I've seen several instances where they just straight up sock puppet the media. They
Mhm.
turn the media into a sock puppet and make them do exactly what they want.
Yeah, the media is
Like
another one that doesn't really understand internet culture.
no, yeah, they it's I mean it's just like the okay hand symbol
Yeah,
sign
yeah,
thing
yeah. That was
and milk
milk.
and what are some other ones? I just there's just been so many examples of them just using the media to do exactly what they want. Um, but the interesting thing is, have you heard about the time where Poll basically called in an airstrike? Well, two actually.
No.
Uh, so Paul basically there was two videos, and one was like a training video of an ISIS like training camp or whatever. Paul found out where the training camp was, the Russians, and the Russians blew it up.
Wow, that's
Um,
crazy. That's crazy to think that they have that much pull.
this is the weaponized autism,
Yeah,
as they call it.
that's nuts. I didn't even know
So
about that.
they did two. There was one where it was sort of like a not underground, but sort of like a low street that sort of went down, and there's like two minarets, and they sort of lined them all up and something like that, and they just boom blew it up too. So
That's crazy. I had no idea about that. There should be somebody should be looking at that.
well, I mean, I've heard obviously there's gonna be no confirmation, but I've heard that like some uh like intelligence agencies actually like sort of monitor poll a little bit or 4chan,
Yeah, I
which
wouldn't
I
doubt it.
mean,
That makes sense.
uh, for instance, like somebody came out and anonymously predicted the Milo pedo thing or whatever. I mean, it was like 2 or 3 days before, I think.
Yeah, that was a weird situation that Milo got himself into from something he said 2
Predicted it
years
though.
prior.
somebody predicted it, or not predicted, like essentially warned about it. They were saying basically, I think the reasoning is they had found it and they had waited until Milo got bigger and then hit him with it.
Yeah, that makes sense because I was always like, oh, this was said 2 years ago. Like nobody saw this earlier and said anything. Like how weird is that? But I guess it makes sense what you're saying that they did see it. They were just holding off on it for the right time. Makes a lot of sense.
I don't know. My opinion on that is like he, how do I, like he did sort of like he was very. It was kind of like it just didn't sound very good. Like
yeah, it was towing the line. It's definitely in between, and it was hard to see which side it was. But he did say certain things like that he agreed with the age of consent laws and stuff. So.
Right.
So I don't think he was actually advocating for for pedophilic relationships.
No. He just. I mean, I think the main thing that I was like about was like essentially him. Understand there's a lot of pressure. You're sort of in Hollywood and you have your career to think about and stuff like that. But it's he didn't sort of like call it out, report it. Some seeing if they're actually underage. He said very young boys. I don't know what that means exactly, but it doesn't.
What specific ages? In England, the age of consent is 16, so he could have probably
right
at 16. Yeah, but it was basically saying
I think
it can be a benefit to certain homosexual teens, like to help them get out of the closet and stuff like that, and be comfortable.
Right. It's very on the edge.
Yeah, that's something that it's towing the line for sure. And there's and something like that, people are going to see it bad regardless. Regardless of how
right.
It's just something that you probably just should have not talked about.
I mean, it could also have been phrased quite a lot better.
Yeah, definitely. There was also that thing like George Takei was criticizing him, and then people brought up that he said the same thing on the Howard Stern show like 5 years
ago. Right. Yeah, you did say something similar.
Yeah, being a hypocrite.
One other thing. What do you think? What do you think on going back to the video? The comment about Nazi being more of a disliked term than communism or communist. How do you?
Yeah. I saw your point about the whole McCarthy era, but Nazis were always seen worse. Communists were seen bad. There's no doubt about it. I mean, like I was saying in my video, I grew up at the end of the Cold War, so that was still going around somewhat. Like fuck communists and shit like that. And but Nazi was always seen worse. At any point, you'd probably rather be called a communist than a Nazi. Nazis are just thought of as exterminators and racist and stuff.
I mean, I kind of see that maybe a little bit, but I also I kind of want to bring up like Operation Paperclip. So I mean, like I like in some ways, at least officially in an official capacity, sort of, we had Operation Paperclip was where we essentially took Nazi scientists and essentially brought them to the United States and sort of gave them jobs and stuff like that.
But that was all kept on the hush hush, like that wasn't a public knowledge till like years later.
I mean, well, yeah, but wasn't was it von Braun or the rocket guy? Wasn't he sort of in the forefront?
Yeah, but I don't think people knew about that at the time. I think that was released.
Just some guy, I guess.
I think that was released way later that they had taken German scientists to work on stuff on rockets.
I don't know. I mean, I guess there was less information. There's no internet, I guess, so there's less information about him specifically. I don't know, but okay. I mean, I kind of see that, but I don't know. It just.
That's not to say that communists didn't have a negative connotation here. They definitely did, and they were seen pretty close to Nazis. But I think Nazis were considered way worse all this time.
Okay.
Well, at least since the end of World War II.
All right, fair enough. I think that's about it. Like, I think that's about it, at least in regards to the video. I don't know if you want to talk about anything else.
No, I'm pretty good.
Okay.
If you got anything else, I don't know. Anything in general, it doesn't have to be about the video.
I don't know. I mean, we could talk about all kinds of crazy stuff that's going on.
What are your plans for YouTube? Keeping it.
I just kind of, I don't know. This is sort of right now, sort of just an outlet for me to, express my views and stuff like that. I like talking about politics way too much. So,
No, that's cool. I like that people are getting into this, and starting YouTube channels, even though YouTube is being very fascistic right now.
yeah. I've been essentially mirroring my videos on VidMe and
Yeah, I've been doing that too.
stuff like that.
Good idea.
I'm still a little concerned, wary because they have sort of hate speech clause in their guidelines.
Mhm.
So it's just
Yeah, but they don't
something.
seem to crack down on it as much as YouTube is.
I mean,
Yeah,
currently,
currently, because they don't have much traffic. I mean, once they get a lot of traffic, I could see them implementing that.
yeah. So I mean, that's the kind of question is like, do you really want to plant your flag there when the hill could just crumble as well? So I don't know.
But the way I see it is, competition might help with that because, like, YouTube has basically all the traffic. If we have another video site that can start building up, then maybe the competition itself would settle the
Mhm.
the restrictions and stuff, because they'll be like, everybody going over to
Maybe.
this one because they're not as restrictive, so we got to lower our restrictions.
I mean, but I mean, I also feel like don't underestimate sort of the uh the tech collusion, I guess, sort of
Yeah.
that we kind of see. So I mean,
That's
because
true too.
I don't know if you heard about this, but Gab got threatened by the registrar
Oh no, I didn't hear about that.
over a post. Basically, Andrew Anglin posted a Tumblr expectations versus reality on Heather Hair. Um, it's obviously a very crude joke, but it essentially they gave Andrew Torba 40 hours to remove the post, or else they'd like, I don't exactly know what a registrar does, but like essentially, or like, he'd be kicked off a bit.
Mm.
So even if you have like a website that's friendly, you could also, there's like this infrastructure behind it. There's several layers of companies that you need to go through. Like you need to register your domain, you need like a service provider and servers and stuff like that. And so like there's several layers where you can get caught up essentially. And so that's what concerned me.
But then there's like AiU had all his older channels taken down like almost
Right.
a year ago, and now suddenly they gave him back all his channels with all his videos on it.
Really? Okay.
That's maybe it comes in waves, because it's always like some advertisers are make a fuss. So I guess YouTube like cracks down, and then after that passes by, they're like, all right, let me give some people their stuff back.
I mean, it's been kind of continuous. I mean, I feel like at least advertising wise, it's been, I'm not saying accounts wise, but advertising wise, it's been rather continuous because, it started off with, PewDiePie and then sort of
Yeah.
worked its way down.
Yeah, you can see
And
it. It kind of seemed very systematic and shit.
yeah. I mean, partially, I think just because currently YouTube, I believe, costs Google money.
Yeah, they're not making money off it.
So I mean that I sort of understand why the demonetization is going around because essentially they, like they lost a whole bunch of advertisers, so the hurt kind of has to spread around, I guess. But
They're letting the advertisers control them, because I think that's a bluff. Like they'll back out, but where else are they gonna go? I think they'll just come right back once they realize YouTube won't change and shit.
I mean,
But YouTube isn't calling their bluff. Where
so
else are they gonna go? Where else on the internet does it have as much traffic as YouTube? To get your advertisements out.
I mean, sort of in a way, yes. Uh, but I mean, I feel like that there has been some sort of thought that maybe YouTube is trying to become TV essentially.
Yeah.
So in that way, if you kind of bow to the advertisers, that revenue may make up for it essentially.
Hmm.
I don't know, because the other thing is also like, as some people point out, like the sort of politics skeptic sort of whatever you want to call it community that we are, we're not the biggest community. There's like a lot of makeup and cat videos and music videos and all this other crap that can give just the mindless entertainment kind of stuff, essentially.
Yeah, that's the more popular stuff for sure. Collectively, especially.
And so that's what concerns me, is that like essentially they may considering how much damage has happened because of all of this crap, they may just be like, we can just ditch it and then put CNN or some other crap on here.
Yeah, you don't see any of the news stations channels getting demonetized or having any trouble. They don't give them any trouble.
So I mean that's the concern, I suppose.
Yeah, it's a valid concern.
And then of course there's the the companies are trying to push internet neutrality in giant quotes. They just it's not internet neutrality, it's they just rebranded it as net neutrality, but it's not really.
Yeah, that's hey, you don't want the companies to take over the internet.
No, we don't.
Right now this is our only like option for only media option for like free speech or to say what we want. It's like they took over TV and radio. So
no, yeah, I think it definitely scares them, because like having millions of people just be able to spout out their ideas and stuff like that is just the mainstream media is just taking giant hits all over the place.
Yeah, I definitely see it. I don't see how TV can last that much longer. It's mostly old people. Like once those old people die off, then we're just gonna have like the younger generation now be older on the internet, watching stuff on the internet.
No, I mean, no, that's definitely true, because I think what was it? Sargon, I think, talked about the BBC. It's youngest. It's like the youngest one or something like that. Maybe it was the BBC. I'm not entirely sure, but it was like 43, I think, was their average age.
Oh shit. That's pretty old. And you think like normally on TV and any place wants to have like their demographic be young, like from like 13 to 21 and stuff.
Right.
So if you don't have that audience, you're missing out on the larger picture.
I mean, the only way you get that audience is like, cartoons or something like that.
Yeah.
But the other thing, I think this was, I want to say several years ago, 4 or 5 years ago at least, but I remember Fox News's average population or average age was like 60 something, I want to say.
Wow.
And in 1 year, their average like jumped up by 2. So it wasn't like their population is staying and just aged by 1 year through 1 year. It jumped by 2.
Yeah, they're not getting any new watchers. That's basically what it is.
Yeah.
So it's like once their viewers die off, that's it.
I mean, the only way they.
Go ahead.
I mean, the only way I guess is like there's some speculation that sort of like that's why, well, not why, but like sort of there's Murdoch or whatever was trying to buy Sky News, I think, in the UK, and that's sort of why Bill O'Reilly got knocked off, and his viewing age is through the roof. I think it was probably in the 70s or something like that.
Wow.
And so they're sort of jettisoning people, and maybe they're trying to rebrand, I suppose.
Yeah, get some younger people on TV and capture the younger conservatives.
What were you gonna say?
Oh, I don't even watch TV anymore. It's been like years since I've turned on my TV to watch something on TV. My TV is basically video games now.
I only see TV when it's just like playing in some public area or whatever.
Yeah, basically.
Literally the only thing.
And anything I want to watch, I just watch it on the internet.
Exactly, yeah. And I mean, it's such a weird, because like I'm not used to like these long 4 or 5 minute stretches of advertisements and stuff like that either.
Oh, on TV?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're younger, so I guess you didn't grow up watching a lot of TV like I did. Well, at least where TV was like your only option.
No, I mean, there wasn't. I mean, yeah, it was basically a lot less for me, at least.
Like even growing up, cable wasn't even that popular, so there was just basically 7 channels to watch. It was kind of cool though, because you had more stuff to talk to about people. You know, like now with TV having like 300 channels and shit, people don't end up watching the same things.
Right.
Yeah, but when I was younger, I'd go to school and everybody like, "Oh, did you watch this last night?" You're like, "Yeah, of course," and start talking about it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess the only one you do is like really big ones like Game of Thrones or
Yeah, like for the
Rick
really
and Morty or something like that.
that people watch when it, at least close to when it airs.
I mean,
like
it's also, huh?
Well, as I say, nowadays that when you can watch things now whenever you want, you end up waiting on things too. Like I'll watch stuff like after the season's already over and stuff.
Oh yeah. And on demand, it's it's always there.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess we'll end this here.
Okay.
It was good talking to you.
Definitely.
And if you ever want to live stream again, just let me know.
Sure. Yeah.
Set it up. Cool. Thanks for coming on, man.
Bye.
All right. See ya.